I am Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the show, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be talking about everything that happened in episode 3 of the Hawkeye series. So if you haven't checked that episode out yet, you may want to pause this video, go over to Disney Plus and check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
To break down everything that took place in episode 3 of the Hawkeye series, it's Jon Rico.
It's me. What's up?
It's you. Merry holiday Christmas early. We both
Merry Holla Christmas Day.
We kind of already had we didn't even connect on this. I asked you if I should put on a sweater, but you said no because you have yours. But I did start decorating. Yeah. And I mean, this is the perfect show, basically, to get us into the holiday spirit, I guess. I mean, it's all centered around Christmas. This episode, by the way, I do have to say this, go on record. This episode in particular played my favorite holiday song of all time. It's the Kinks' Father Christmas. And it's not the greatest holiday song. Like, so don't like come at me and fight me because like it's like I'm saying it's the greatest. It's not the greatest. It's just from a very young age, my dad like showed me that song, and so it's always been connected for me. I have to listen to it around this time every year, so nice. It's always just been like associated with Christmas for me, and it's a very like cynical Christmas song and everything like that. But it sounds very like holly jolly and great. But it is my favorite Christmas song of all time. So I thought it was perfect. But on to initial reactions because you know there's a lot to talk about and unpack from this episode. So I'll just go really quick. We finally got the naming scene for Pizza Dog.
Hell yeah.
Basically, they're sitting in the diner and Clint's just like, hey, you're going to have to give that dog a name at some point. And Kate's just kind of like scrolling through some names. And I mean, I was kind of like, I liked some of the other names, but you know, Pizza Dog works. Lucky, I think. Is
Lucky's his name in the book, so Lucky the Pizza Dog, I think, is what they call him.
Right.
I thought they were gonna call him that, like the Lucky Pizza Dog or something like that.
I thought she was gonna say that
because everyone really just calls him Pizza Dog at the end of the day.
Right. So I'm wondering if something's gonna happen and then they're gonna call him Lucky, like by the end or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, so that was the first thing. The second, I definitely had to point out, and it was still in the same diner. I had to point out. So Kate is going, you know, your problem is your costume. You don't have a good standout costume. And she's like drawing and scribbling on something. And she shows him, and it's like basically a comic accurate Hawkeye costume.
Oh yeah.
And he just goes, hell no. Like it's just it's one in a long line of these superhero shows and movies where the comic accurate costume is just like the actual superhero is like, hell no, I'm not wearing that type of thing. I mean, we've always had like Logan, we've always had that for him for sure.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
You were saying this before we even started. Scarlet Witch and Vision. We had the pokes. Yeah, we had the pokes at Scarlet Witch and Vision during WandaVision where they wore them for their Halloween costumes, the more accurate
even Quicksilver in that show too.
Exactly.
Everyone gets, it's a cool way to like, you know, make fun of the past, but also acknowledge like the original looks that came before. So also giving like, you know, shout out to like the original artists who created these characters. Like if they didn't look like that, they wouldn't look like how they look on screen today. So that was really cool. And also speaking of the Hawkeye costume, Marvel released this really cool little like behind the scenes featurette of the LARP battle from last week. And if you, and I guess in the background of one of the scenes, there was an archer who is like kind of dressed up like a LARP version of comic book Hawkeye, which is pretty rad, if I do say so myself. Like the attention to detail is pretty awesome in this show.
That's amazing. So anyway, I could go on for forever about little things that I noticed and I thought were hilarious here and there. But what were your initial reactions for this episode?
Dude, I really loved this episode. Like it was nonstop, action packed from beginning to finish. You get Maya's origin just to start the episode, kind of mirroring Kate's origin in the beginning of the first episode. It's a really bit of a darker origin story for her, of course, showing her father's involvement with the tracksuit mafia and a certain another figure in her life that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. And another thing that we learned is also that she's missing her right leg too. Like I didn't know that. Not only is she deaf, but she's also an amputee. So that really just kind of adds to the depth of this character. So I'm really interested to see what happened to lead to like that incident to her losing a leg. I wonder if Ronin was involved with that in some form. Because Clint definitely knows who she is and who she works for. But man, and then like going from straight to her origin right into the whole like chasing with the tracksuits and Kate and Clint. And it just kept going from there, man. And it just went right back into that great character banter right after the reaction. So we got really the best of everything when it comes to Hawkeye in this show.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So you want to get into big takeaways?
Yes, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, the first one, I mean, it goes almost exactly with what you were talking about. Like, I just had to make this comment of how crazy of an arsenal Clint's arrows are.
Yes.
Like, I feel like, yeah, we've seen, you know, a couple of variations in arrows from him in the past, like Avengers movies and stuff like that.
Tactical ones, like they haven't very much had a purpose.
Right.
These are very much like, I'm Hawkeye. I got some silly arrows too.
like the Play-Doh or the goo one. Like, and
yeah, I love that.
The one that he had Kate shoot one straight up and then he shot the other one. Like, these
with the Pym arrow.
Yeah,
that was that got the biggest cheer from me of anything. I'm like, oh my, that arrow says Pym. What's about to happen? Oh my god!
That is so cool.
It was so cool.
I'm also wondering. So like, I mean, Hawkeye and Ant-Man have kind of like, you know, been friends by association, kind of like
they did their own version of the fastball special in Civil War.
Buckled in?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good, Arrow Guy. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd be really interested to see them kind of maybe team up sometime in the future. Like if we get some sort of like a West Coast Avengers or something like that, maybe they're working together a little bit more often. But anyway, so what was your first big takeaway?
Yeah. So before I get to my takeaway, one of the things I loved about the trick arrows is I've also always been a Green Arrow fan. And what I loved about the Arrow show is that they threw in some trick arrows every now and then, like the boxing glove arrow and stuff like that. So I actually love that kind of Marvel went into that more, like dove into what Clint's arsenal of arrows really is. What would he bring with him on like a silly, like street level job or something like that? But they all have a purpose. Except for the one arrow that Kate shoots at the dude that just bounces off the dude. And he's like, what? Okay.
Yeah. I'm still wondering what that was.
Yeah.
Was it just a dud? Was it just like just an arrow?
Hey, it's just like a bluff arrow, basically, I would imagine, right?
I guess.
But anyways, my takeaway here. So we talked about Maya's origin, how you know, she grew up, you know, learning how to kick ass herself as a deaf student, going to a regular public school. Her father couldn't really just provide what she needed, basically. So that's what kind of leads with them going with the tracksuit mafia. I feel like he's just kind of in that life. But when we see her at a karate lesson one day growing up, someone's walking in behind her or her father, and he's in a nice black suit. And he's like, oh, they refer to him as uncle. You know, gives him a little stroke of the cheek, and you hear a laughter. It's very familiar laughter if you know what I'm talking about. And I'm pretty darn sure that is Wilson Fisk. Because man, the references to him just keep getting more and more like, no, like I was reading about after the first episodes last week that the building where they have the auction is the same building that was Wilson Fisk's home in the Daredevil series, the same building. And they're thinking like maybe the auction was at Fisk's home, and that's why that just makes so much more sense now. Like how he would be the one that would get his hands on all that Avengers memorabilia. I guess I don't know what the word I'm looking for is for there. The auction pieces. Uh, so yeah, I think all the pieces right now are just making that puzzle is going to be Fisk. It's going to be Fisk, and it's going to lead right into Echo's show. So I'm wondering what that whole thing has to do with Maya's turn from trying to get Ronin to her leading to having Fisk as her villain in her show. So what's the turning point going to be? How is Clint really going to be involved with that? It's just so interesting, man. I can't wait for it to all unfold. And we only have 3 episodes left, so you got a lot to cram in there.
Yeah. So that leads us to our last big takeaway, and this is more of a question. I mean, there's just so many questions that this episode I feel like kind of gave us, and there was going back to that diner scene. I feel like had a lot of things. We had the jokes of the comic accurate doodle sketch of the Hawkeye costume. We had the pizza dog officially getting the name, and we also had where Kate was kind of really like saying like, so Ronin must be someone close to you, because you're trying to protect them, basically trying to protect their identity and stuff like that. So it led me to this question. When do we think that Clint is either going to reveal that he is Ronin, or that someone important finds out that he is Ronin, type of thing? Like that has to happen, because I feel like this series is basically helping Clint deal with his past. So I think there's got to be that kind of resolution by the end also, like where he can finally let go of Ronin, like put that to rest, type of thing. So maybe even that's going to have like the change in Echo, really. And it's going to be like where he finally like says like, look, I did this, but this is the person that told me to, like, that hired me to do this, type of thing. And maybe he makes peace with Maya, and that's how she really figures out that Fisk is the real enemy here, type of thing, or something entirely different. But I think we are steps away from getting either Kate figuring out that Clint is or was Ronin, or Jack finding out that Clint was Ronin. Someone's gonna find it out, and then everyone's gonna know. And but I think like by the end of this series, it's really going to be where Clint has to basically come to terms with that and finally put Ronin to rest, and basically just kind of heal from that whole really dark point in his life during the blip time, basically.
Right.
And I think that's a big point in this show is kind of him really not understanding why people see him as a role model, and him kind of, having to figure out that he's inspiring other people to do good, and that, putting the bad parts away at this point. So anyway, you want to get to predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So why don't you kick us off with predictions? Because I almost slipped into your prediction and I didn't want to. So that's why I cut myself off. I was like, I want you to get yours. So like, you go first.
Okay. So at the end of the episode, Clint's walking through Kate's house while she's trying to get some information on the tracksuits, in particularly, I think Maya. So as she's trying to get info about that, she gets locked out of her computer. And as he's walking through the house, boom, the Ronin blade comes right in front of his face. And who do we see? Like Jack right there. Like, don't you move, Hawkeye. And then boom, you get the cut to the crotch right there. And like right away, we're like, whoa, that's a cliffhanger right there. But I have to wonder if, again, I'm always trying to bring this back to the books. If we're going to get a reveal that Jack has some ties to Clint's past. Because in the books, it's almost kind of like a mentor role, I think, that the swordsman had with Hawkeye in his earlier days. Yeah, because there's a funny thing about Hawkeye is like he was also like, I think like a trapezist, or like a like acrobats and stuff like that. Like he has that kind of background, and it kind of goes in with what swordsman does. Yeah, so you kind of get a glimpse of it in this episode when he's escaping through the KB toys. He jumps over the trampoline and stuff like that. He does some pretty cool stuff, and obviously that's how he can jump the way he does anyway, with doing his certain maneuvers and stuff like that. But yeah, I wonder if Jack's obsession with the Ronin sword, if he knows that that's Clint's sword, maybe like if he knows the way, maybe he trained Clint as a swordsman. That's why Clint can fight so well with a sword as Ronin. So that would be a very interesting tie / reveal, twist, whatever you want to call it. But I think that would be a really fun direction to take that.
Yeah. I mean,
And how Kate's mom will factor into this. I'm not sure about the Madame Mask thing at this point, but it would be another cool factor. But man, there's really a lot of layers to the show that they just keep throwing in there as a potential direction that they can go in.
yeah. I mean, like, I'm gonna piggyback off of your predictions. Basically, we had a very Jack and Kate's mom list episode. Like the first two episodes, we had them in a lot type of thing. This episode, barely at all.
She's not in at all.
Yeah. But Jack's obviously at the end, which means that it's gonna pick back up with him the beginning of the next episode. But I'm still wondering how much shadiness Kate's mom is in on. Like, there's levels of it. There's like, I think it's pretty safe to say we can put Fisk at the top of the shady shit. Jack is somewhere in there, and Kate's mom is somewhere in there. I'm just trying to figure out what level. I'm still at this point thinking there's going to be that twist. So I think Kate's mom is definitely higher on the shady shit meter.
Oh yeah, she runs a security company.
Jack,
And Kate says in this episode they have a lot of like criminal databases on there, so she's probably got a lot of dirt on people that would make her a lot of enemies. But yeah, man, that's she's got a lot of power that she may have too much to handle at this point, especially if Fisk is involved.
Also, and just because I have to say it, because and we were talking about this before. Episodes 5 and 6 of the Hawkeye series are what's sandwiching the Spider-Man No Way Home release. I'm not saying that they're going to have anything to do with each other, but they're both taking place in the same city. They're both have scenes around Christmas time in them. We've seen shots from Spider-Man No Way Home where it's the holidays and it's snowing and they're in New York and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not saying that, but who's somebody else that is slated to be in Spider-Man No Way Home and has connections to Fisk, Echo, and New York City? None other than Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Now, we don't know for sure, but we're pretty sure that we're not going to get Daredevil in No Way Home, but we're supposed to be getting Matt Murdock. So what if we get another twist and we get a glimpse of Daredevil, not Matt Murdock, but Daredevil in the Hawkeye series? And that because we also have rumors that he's going to be showing up in the Echo series. So there needs to be some sort of connection there too. So what if he is kind of the catalyst for showing Echo that Fisk is really the one who's responsible for her father's death and stuff like that? Like, I mean, we never know. I mean, anything's possible, but I would go crazy if we saw Daredevil. I'm just saying there's so many heroes in New York. I want to see them all just like walk past each other on the street. That's it. I would be super happy. That's all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what we're building towards, I think, at this point, especially if you make like this kind of Disney Plus verse in a way, like almost like a sub universe of the MCU, where these guys are basically like you're basically gonna get your Disney Plus Avengers. If I think that's the way we're looking at it. Like the Moon Knight, the Echoes, the Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, like all these people are going to come together and make pretty much a super team for street level crime. Yeah, and it's almost going to be like their way of making up for the Defenders in a way. Yeah, and who knows? They might even call it Defenders, or they might call it something else. But who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 3? And was that or was that not Wilson Fisk? Are we going to see him outright in the next episode? I cannot wait. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest video releases. Bye, everybody!